can show business cards, pass around business cards, whatever you want.
Okay,
Your books, your business cards, and the book marks,
okay,
no problem.
that's, I want to
No
make sure.
problem.
All right, thank you.
I'm really excited about this.
Okay. She only allows me 10 minutes to speak at the MAC, and she only asked me for 5. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna teach you a Russian proverb. Happy people don't take care of watching time.
Okay.
I just wanted to add that the rules did state that you can have a book holder
Yeah,
and a card holder for your cards.
yeah.
You can also bring bookmarks if you,
Yes,
yeah, okay.
I
absolutely.
think they just don't want posters. They don't want,
Absolutely.
they don't want
Yeah,
posters.
no decorations, posters, nothing like that. Like Mary has the lights and
Okay.
candles, yeah, flowers.
I think we're ready for our guest speaker, if we haven't run out of time.
No, I'll let her talk past 3. Okay, Anna, I want to introduce Ana Goodwin, and she's going to talk to us about writing her father's biography and other things. She's have a master's degree and a certificate for counseling, is that right, Anna?
Psychotherapy.
Psychotherapy, okay. So, let's all welcome Anna.
Thank you. I'm going to bring up my cup of water and some stuff to keep my voice going. Yeah, I'm not too sure. I'm not very good at this. I'm glad you put it on there though, because I tend to, talk with my arms. Can you hear me okay?
No,
No?
Yes.
stand close, there you go.
Got it even?
It is
Okay.
a directional
That's
line,
better.
so you kind of have to put it so that you're talking into it.
There? Is that better?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
My name is Ana Goodwin, and I grew up in Winnipeg area, Manitoba, and came to the United States and married a person with a PhD in invertebrate pathology. How's that?
Scary.
And he was hired to go to Australia, and so we lived there for a while and then came back to Washington, D.C., and then we retired here. So this is a really wonderful place to live. I just want to say that. And I started writing books at the end of my career because we were 3 in our private practice together, and 2 of us decided to teach sand plate therapy to therapists. And we did that, and the people kept saying, "Where's the book? Where's the book?" I'm sure you've all experienced that. And so we decided to write it. And we thought it would take a couple of months, we had all this information. And 2 years later, how that goes. And we put it out and we said, we knew nothing about writing, etc. So we put it out to 3 publishers, and thinking, well, maybe they'll take it, maybe they won't, but we didn't know that most publishers didn't accept your books, We just thought, well, we've written it, it should come together. And sure enough, in 6 weeks, we got a reply from W.W. Norton and they published our book.
Yay.
So,
Okay.
all the things that you never expect in your life. So that's the book there. That was published in the year 2000, and I'm still getting royalties from it, so that's pretty good.
What's the title?
Sand Play Therapy, a step-by-step manual for psychotherapists of diverse orientations. But then, strangely enough, a couple years after that was published, we got a message, and I thought, well, from China? That's really weird.
Yeah.
And sure enough, they had picked it up as well, so
Oh,
that's in
wow.
China.
Amazing.
So, strange things happen in your life sometimes that you really don't expect. And when I retired, I didn't know what to do with my life. And I had I love novels, particularly mystery. And, being a kid, I used to watch or read Nancy Drew and Hardy Boys and all that kind of stuff. So I decided I knew so much about therapy, etc., to create a mystery novel. And that was my next book. I didn't sell it to a big publisher or anything, but it was so much fun writing it, because you could do anything, and people would say, well, why are you writing this? And I'd say, because I don't have to make the ending the way it happens. I can do anything with the story and make the ending. Because in my therapy practice, I had a lot of clients who had some pretty sad endings, and I didn't have to do that. I could make it great. So that was fun. How many of you, when did you start writing?
Third grade.
Third grade, good for you.
I was gonna say,
Susan.
Anna, I wrote poetry from the time I could write. And when I was in high school, I sent poems to this magazine that published them. So I got the publishing bug early.
Cool.
But I didn't write any books till I retired.
Right. It seems
From
common.
teaching, by the way.
How about the rest of you? Yes.
I've wanted to do it for a long time, but it took retirement and COVID.
Yeah. Oh, yes. COVID probably pushed a lot of it, didn't it? Yes.
I've kept journals for many years, and first things I wrote, I was about 12 or 13.
Uh-huh.
And then I kind of let it slide, and then I picked it up again several years later and started writing stories from my
Yeah.
life, from all the things I'd written down. So
Absolutely.
most of my stories are life
Life stories. That's great. I never wanted to write. My 8th grade teacher told me, well, you're a good technical writer, but don't worry about writing anything else. So I didn't until, I didn't have anything counting on it. Anyone else, when did you start writing? Yeah.
I had a medical procedure done when I was about 70 years old, so I started writing after the doctors gave me 6 months to a year to live in 2010.
Ouch. In 2010.
And I have 8 books published.
8. Wow. That's fantastic.
Yeah, they keep me alive.
Yes, yes. And it lands up being fun.
I started my first book 35 years ago.
35.
I still haven't finished it,
Oh, good for you.
but I have published 5 books.
Oh, well, that's not the one that you originally started.
No, it's coming.
That's a story that has no end.
Yeah.
Well, The problem was the middle of the book, but that's since been solved.
Oh, what happened?
Well, I got to a point and I got the beginning and the end, but the middle of the book had this giant hole in it,
Uh-huh.
and it took me 30 some odd years to fix it. So now that it's fixed, I have other projects and I haven't gotten back to it.
Okay. Yeah, did everybody finish their first book that they started on?
Yeah.
Good for
No.
you. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm not quite sure when I actually started writing. My first was just an article
Uh-huh.
that I know of when I was like 10 or 11 years old. It got published in the newspaper,
Good.
and off and on I've been writing ever since. I got only one book published. It's over there,
Uh-huh.
and I had to get it republished because there was gross errors in it.
Oh, yeah.
And as far as I know, that's the only copy there is.
Wow. That's amazing.
The new one.
Yeah,
That's the new one.
yeah, you have
I got
to
a dozen
hide
of the
it.
bad copies.
That's funny. Yeah, well, it's interesting, as I said, I wasn't ever really interested in writing, and it has turned out to be a fun project most of the time. After I finished my Forbidden Justice, oops, and that's about a psychotherapist and a detective, and, you know, so that was a lot of fun. But then I came to myself and I said, my gosh, I know so much about post-traumatic stress. And here I am, I know all this stuff, and I'm not giving it out to anybody. So I have written 2 books on PTSD and how to take care of yourself and your family. One is for veterans and the other one is for everyone.
Wow.
And so the interesting thing is that my dad escaped Russia when he was 18, after the revolution, etc. I'll tell you more about that. And the story is incredibly unique, and we know so little of what happens to many of the refugees that have come in. And we really need to know more of what they've gone through. And my dad didn't talk about it that much, but I have on the book that I finally wrote, I said, I am the child of a refugee. And that is amazing because my dad had PTSD all his life. And but we didn't know that, you know? And I think that's what happens to a lot of refugees. And then their children suffer from that too. And I'm very pleased that there's a lot more information out there now, etc. I don't know if any of you remember Larry Tellis at all. No. He was from Coeur d'Alene, and he was very, very active in the Idaho Writers League. And I had talked to him a little bit about my dad, and kept saying, well, I'm going to write a book about it. And, but of course I never did. Most of you probably understand that. And part of it was because it was very difficult for me to write the story. So he was the one that kept saying, Ana, come on, aren't you writing yet? What's the matter with you? So he did that probably for 5 years before I actually but in the meantime, this is a true life story, I guess you could say. I think they call it creative nonfiction, where you have to build the scenes because you know the stories, but you don't know what the scenes are or what people said, etc. And there's part of me that always kept saying, oh gosh, you're lying. Your dad's going to get really mad at you for because, you know, I don't know exactly what happened to them. And you're building that constantly. Have any of you written memory or anything like that?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and so I started pulling things together, and there were stories from my childhood that started pretty young, and I would always go and ask my dad to tell them. And most of the time he didn't want to, because there's something about post-traumatic stress that you're afraid to tell. And very often that happens with veterans a lot too, when they come back. I had one veteran that had written in the back of my Path Beyond a poem, and he waited for 25 years to be able to write it. And he started telling the story of, he knew that he had killed people, and it was devastating to him, and we never talked about it. And so with my dad, it was all the horrible things that had happened, but I'd write down the stories just briefly, but he had a lot of friends that had gone through the same thing. And I have a couple of maps I'll give you.
You want me to, I can pass those out if you want to keep talking. Well, Carl's got it.
Just pass them around. And something most people don't realize is that a lot of German people went to Russia, and that was during Catherine the Great's reign. She wanted people from Germany. She herself was German, and because they knew a lot more about farming. And there was the Catholic-Protestant war going on at that time. And so they're mostly Protestants that left. Oh, that's nice. Thank you. And my family went to Russia in 1762. And they thought they were they'd found paradise. They went to Ukraine, which was part of Russia at the time, and they were given certain incentives to go from Catherine the Great. A couple of land. Most were given land in fertile Ukraine, 30 hectares, 75 acres or more. Initial financial assistance, the freedom to retain their own language, the free and unrestricted practice of religion, exemption from military service, and self-governance and tax breaks. And so the German people actually had democracy over there at the time, and they were in villages. And after a while, the area, they couldn't get any more land there, and they bought land, if you look at the map, by the Caspian Sea, and there were 15 villages that actually developed there, and about 300 people to each village, and they were all German. But there was a lot of jealousy going on by that time. This was like 1900, because they were given privileges that none of the other people had. And so what happened was that, well, you all know about the revolution. And the stories were told about what happened to them and how they escaped, and their homes were all burned. And they ran for 6 years before they finally escaped Russia. And which, you know, in the meantime, my grandmother had 9 children, and the last 2 were while they were running and hiding. You go crazy. I mean, I can't even imagine what people went through to do that. And one of the stories is about my second to youngest aunt, who landed up being 100 years old before she died. She was so sure, you know, she kept saying, I'm not dying. And was born in a stable on their run. And most of you have probably watched Dr. Zhivago. Well, a lot of the experiences are like that, where they would be thrown off the railroad, you know, trains, and they would have to go and hide and find some places. So it's an amazing story, and you think of what some of our ancestors have gone through. And, you know, it's, oh, this has got to show this to you. That's my Aunt Anne, and she's 100 years old there. And all the cousins got together and dressed her up like Santa Claus. She was always the life of the party, great lady. And then my Aunt Elisabetta, they all kind of changed their names when they came over. Her name was Betty, she decided. And she was born during one of the worst famines in the world. And there's lots of stories about the famines as well. They escaped in 1924, finally, and that was before the walls came up. But it was the early Stalin era. And they were picked up by a British ship off Riga, which is, the Latvia area there. And they were taken to London and a couple of other British areas. And then the British put them on a big, like, cattle ship type of place with hay in the bottom, you know, straw and stuff. And I don't know how many people, but probably hundreds. And they took them to Canada. And this is kind of an interesting part of it that I'll mention to you is when they arrived, the person there asked, do you have a family member here, or, somebody you know? And my grandfather said yes, and it was Katarina Schmidt that had moved sometime before that. And he asked, well, where is she? And he said, in Canada, because they had absolutely no concept of how big Canada was. And so they decided, well, they had been farmers before, and they sent them off into the farming area and came to just past Winnipeg there. And my family always called this an incredible miracle. They always had somebody that spoke German that came on to talk to them, and the person asked, do you have somebody you know here? And my poor grandfather didn't want to say anything because all he knew was they were in Canada. And then my grandmother said, well, my aunt is here somewhere. And she gave her name, and the guy turned white. He said, that is my mother-in-law. Isn't that something? And they took the whole family in. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
And they were lived with them for a couple of years and then had their own farm. But what we used to have, which is kind of interesting, because I kind of thought we were kind of special, even when I was young, because we had 2 Thanksgiving days. The one regularly in October, and the other on August the 8th, which was the day they arrived in Canada.
Oh,
On free land, we called it. And my dad would so often say, never, never let your freedoms go. And it's, at the time it didn't mean much to me. But as I've grown and aged and everything else, it's very clear. And the other thing that I liked about what he said was he would say, oh yeah, be as afraid as you want to, but do it anyway. And that's what they've had to do all their life to get to where they are. So, are there any questions?
yeah.
It's a lot to take in.
Too much to take in?
No, not too much.
Okay.
I'm not complaining.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
Good. Suzanne?
Well, I don't really have a question, just a little feedback that I really appreciate this family history because it makes me think of my own.
Absolutely.
My grandparents fled from the Dust Bowl. And my grandmother had a child on the way to California, as they were people leaving the Dust Bowl. Very hard times for them.
Yeah.
And that was in this country.
Yes, that's right.
It was against nature. But anyway, very interesting.
You had your hand.
How many books did you write?
How many books? Well, let's see. I also wrote a children's book with my husband, who was not exactly an entomologist, but knew a lot. And it's about worms and how to grow worms. And it comes from a little worm's point of view.
Oh, fun.
I still have that.
Do you? Good. Yeah. So, yeah, that's great.
How many?
Anything?
How many books?
Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, I forgot.
7.
7.
6.
That's
You live here in Spokane, or where do you,
Coeur d'Alene.
Coeur d'Alene?
We decided to retire here.
Oh.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
I was just, I'm reading your book. and
Okay.
I think the thing that's really, many things that happened to your family are amazing and horrible, but what I'm very impressed with is that they actually, I just realized they walked or traveled by cart or whatever, all the way up here to Riga. And then that's just Riga was where, what country at that point?
Well,
That
that's
was
in
in
Latvia.
Then they must have had to walk from Latvia to,
Well, they didn't just walk, they got onto railroad.
oh, they did, okay.
Yeah, and because they had money, see, they had been wealthy,
Okay.
they lost everything, but they would actually kind of create a belt with all their money and jewels and everything in it and carry it on them, because often people would come and steal things, and so that was the one way they could continue and then find different places. And they weren't, the people on, the conductors on the train weren't really supposed to pick them up, but they would give them money, and then they'd tell them, but we can't guarantee how far you're going to be able to go. So from Zveroka, which is still close to the Caspian Sea there,
Okay.
to where they were going, which is Bakhmut. And Bakhmut is now back under Russian control, is 1,000 miles. And then they had a train that they took up as well
So
into,
they took a train all the way to the German border?
no,
No,
they just to Latvia.
okay, and then what?
And the British had ships waiting for people who were leaving, refugees.
Yeah, but what body of water would that be?
That's,
Baltic Sea.
yes.
Oh, so they,
Good.
as far as the Baltic Sea? Oh,
Right,
well, that's still a
right.
heck of a trek,
Yeah,
no matter
very
what
much
vehicle
so.
you're on. Oh,
Yeah.
Wow.
yeah. I might read this little bit that I was going to read. As I sit in my favorite chair watching television, I am stunned to see thousands of refugees stream into Europe from Ukraine as Russian bombs blow up their world. Why? Why is this happening again? I feel sudden tears sting my eyes. I can only imagine the agony these people and their children are enduring. But mine are also special tears. Tears for my ancestors, my father and his family, who escaped Ukraine in 1924 after the Russian Revolution and the beginning of the Stalin era.
History repeating itself.
It's history repeating itself, yeah. And why we keep doing that, even as a psychologist, I don't understand it.
Slow learners.
Yeah.
I also read there were Jews who were in,
Yes.
living near these German villages that are in
Yes.
Russia, and they went through a similar experience,
Yes.
except for they were killed.
Many of them were killed, some escaped.
So it was just a horrible, horrible time.
It
the whole
is,
thing.
it was, yeah. And as you say, we keep repeating this.
What is the name of the latest one that's the biography of your father?
By Force and Fear, A Stolen Homeland.
Okay, okay.
if anyone wants to buy one, I have some extra books, and I'll sell them for $10.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
anything else? Yes.
The story reminds me of a woman I worked with around 1980 in a restaurant. And I don't know what her maiden name was, but she would tell us how she started in Ukraine, whether she was Ukrainian or German, whatever, how she had migrated from Ukraine north, along this, through Poland and Germany, and then she migrated, I think, to Great Britain, and then wound up coming here in the U.S. And I wonder how much she might have been in part of that story that you had.
Yeah. Well, I think that's true. There are quite a few German Russians in this area too.
Yeah, so she would have been born around, I guess, about the time of the revolution.
Right.
Around 1920.
Yep. Yeah, 1917 is when it started, and then for several years. And Stalin came in 1923, and they had had a giant famine just before. They talked about my grandmother, they had hidden grain at that point because people were coming and taking everything. And my grandmother would bake bread every day. And then there would be little kids around the house and the fence where they were. And she would go out and give pieces of bread to all the kids.
You're gonna run into people that have a similar story to Anna, especially around here, because there was a very large population of both Volga-Deutsch and Bessarabian Germans who settled Odessa, Linz,
Yep.
Ruf,
Yep.
all of that area. And they also went to Canada and they came back and forth. They were relative.
Right. Yes.
My family has the same story. I run
Do
into
they?
people all the time that have that.
Cool.
But it's a nice commonality.
Yes.
But, I mean, not a pleasant one, but it's a similar story.
Well, the thing that was always interesting to me is Dad had friends, and they would come over, and they'd sneak into my parents' bedroom with chairs and lock the door. And I'd say to Mom, "What's going on?" And she'd say, and they would keep on, the kids and the women were out there and the men were there. I found out later on that my dad was 18 when he left, and he had been in the Selbstschutz, which is...
In the what?
Selbstschutz, that means self-protection, but it was like an army. But the communists would not let them talk about anything religious or government. And that was continued even after. They were afraid, and it happened that they would be poisoned or sent back or something. And so they, it was amazing because those words were, and I asked about that, and they said, because we know too much, whatever that meant. Of course, I never found out, but yeah. And my aunties were so excited about being on that ship. And, they were running around us. And of course, they didn't have toilets or anything, and all these kids running. And, well, my youngest aunt was 3, my next aunt was 5, the one that, this one turned to be 100. But when it came out, it was about that they could say and do anything. They were free. And that was just so important to them because they hadn't been able to talk. They were afraid they would say the wrong thing and the family would be sent to prison. You know, so there are just a lot of those kind of things that we have no idea about.
My grandfather escaped Poland
Oh,
when
yes.
he was a young man, and I think it was 1918, because he didn't want to get conscripted into the Polish army.
Right.
He became a stowaway on a ship
Oh, cool.
to come to America. And that's how my family got established here.
Gosh, yeah.
And there probably was, I know in Russia at that time, if you were conscripted, it was 25 years before you could even see your family.
Oh my gosh.
Was it the same in Poland, you think?
I don't know, I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know what legally he would have been obligated to had he stayed, but he didn't want to stay and find out.
Yeah, good for
And
him.
and on the other, I have 2 sets of Polish grandparents. On the other side, they came over legally, they emigrated over legally, great grandparents and great grandparents came over on ships, and we've got the manifests and everything, but that particular grandparent was like, I'm out of here. So one way or another, I'm getting out of here.
Yeah.
And he illegally made his escape and came over, so.
Well, this is wonderful. All these people
Yeah.
know each other. So thank you, and if you want any other information, I'll be around.
All right, thank you.